Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of 10 Years, 10 Stories, where I am speaking to some of the incredible people that I have met during my 10 years in business. Today, I am joined by my incredible client, Libby Staggs. Libby is a modern slavery and labor exploitation advisor, consultant, trainer, educator, and mentor, and she's helping SMEs create meaningful impact to end modern slavery. This woman is on a mission and one that I have had the pleasure of joining her on in a way that has made me feel incredibly passionate about it as well. And I'm so excited that she's joined me here today. Thank you for being here, Libby.
Thank you, Amy. It's an absolute pleasure.
Now, I would love to know a little bit about your journey in how you came to be in your business because you've been in your business for a really long time. And I would love for you to share your journey with us.
Thanks, Amy. Look, it was quite a unique start. I was working as a in-house and working for a commercial textile company as their environmental manager, and I felt like I had done as much as I could for this business, and I was feeling a bit frustrated and wanting to do more. And I really felt like I could get out and become a consultant and work within the industry. And I had one of my clients come up to me and ask me if I could implement an environmental management system. And I had no clue, but I had great confidence in myself and my ability to do the job. So I just said yes. It was the start of the GFC, and it was a really difficult time for everybody and for industry. But I've got the company certified to ISO 14001 6 months later. And from there, I just went from word of mouth. I just kept getting referrals from one company to another. And then in 2000, I changed tack and I started doing more work around social responsibility and human rights and labor exploitation and modern slavery. And so that's what I've been doing. Obviously, I've been operating for over 15 years, but in the last 9 years, I've been doing a lot of work on modern slavery and human rights due diligence.
Yeah, which is incredible. And I think an interesting conversation that we've had many times is there's a massive focus for businesses on the environmental side of
Mm.
sustainability, focusing on being more green, being more kind to the environment. And the modern slavery side, the social responsibility side, social sustainability has gotten a little bit lost in amongst us. It was huge back when I was in high school. I remember the social sustainability and social responsibility side was massive, but it gotten lost there somewhere along the way in all the talk about climate change.
Right.
How are you finding it with people and getting them engaged?
I think you hit on an important note, Amy, which is why I needed somebody such as yourself to help me with my messaging, because I felt like in the industry that I work in, which is really indirect and indirectly related to the building and construction industry, but for interior products, I just felt there was so much talk about carbon and the circular economy and health impacts due to chemicals and toxins, but I felt like the workers in the supply chain were really just being forgotten. And we're all wanting cheap products and tight time frames, and that has a negative impact on the people that are making products for our workplaces and hotels and pubs and any type of interior that we go into. So I really wanted somebody that such as yourself, who really got what I wanted to do in terms of being brave and being more outspoken and being a bit of an agitator around we've got to raise awareness around modern slavery and human rights and labor exploitation in
Yeah,
supply chains.
we absolutely do. It's such an important mission that you're on. And so being visible, I think, is
Yeah.
something that's going to be incredibly important for you as we grow your brand and help it become more visible so that people
Yeah.
become aware of this. Because something that absolutely fascinated me from a bit of information from the work that we've done together is that modern slavery and labor exploitation has actually increased in the
Mhm.
last 5 years, despite the fact that we now have more legislation around it and more reporting obligations for businesses in these industries to know what's going on in their supply chains. And yet we're seeing an increase. in the
Yeah.
amount of modern slavery and labor exploitation that's going on.
Yeah, it's such a challenge. It's such a challenging topic, industry. And I've seen industries such as the fashion industry grapple with this for decades and still feels like how much progress have we actually made if we see these figures increasing? And that's for me when I really got a sense of how different companies are approaching this differently. And a small minority are really doing it with the intention of finding modern slavery and labor exploitation and creating change around that. But so many companies are just taking a tick box approach. We've done our compliance. We want to be seen to be doing the right thing, but they're not resourcing their sustainability professionals within their organization to allow them to give them the time to really engage with their supply chain in a meaningful way. Because their sustainability professionals have to balance climate reporting and carbon and circular economy and labor exploitation and supply chain. So it's a big juggling act for them. But companies really need to properly resource their sustainability or CSR or ESG departments so they can do this in a more meaningful way.
And that's a really key part of the work that you do, really, is making sure that we're doing social sustainability in a meaningful way, like in a way that actually has an impact. Tell me a bit about how you work with small and medium-sized businesses to help them to do that.
I work in a specific industry, and that's really with product companies, SMEs, small businesses that are making products for commercial interiors for office buildings. I actually interview my clients before I bring them on board because I really want to get a sense of whether they want to have a modern slavery statement that ticks a box or whether they really want to do a deep dive into their supply chain and are willing to have tough conversations with their suppliers and are willing to invest in doing this work. So usually we start off by doing a training and awareness session, and that's around bringing the key people, internal stakeholders, and doing a training and awareness sessions. And these sessions are just magic because everybody starts to get a sense of what modern slavery is, how it occurs, how they may be unwillingly contributing to modern slavery. And this is the start of the magic journey that we're going to take together to really have a look at what's happening in their supply chain and then putting systems in place to try and mitigate that. But we also look at the opportunities. Where are the opportunities? What suppliers do we have influence over where we can really start working with them so they can do work within their supply chain?
Yeah, and I think that's a really important thing, isn't it? Because you mentioned talking about working with businesses who are up for the challenge and who want to make a difference. And that's one of the challenges that I think that this issue comes up against, is that we want to pretend that everything's okay. It's a
Yeah.
fairly confronting thing, I think, for people to realize that modern slavery and labor exploitation is still happening. And as consumers, we don't really think about that. I don't think when we rock up to Kmart or we buy something from Temu, or we're not thinking about like, where did that thing come from? And so it's a fairly confronting thing to dive into and be willing to uncover that there might be modern slavery in your supply chain, and actually do something about it. 'Cause the first step is accepting that it's very likely that there is modern slavery
Yeah.
in your supply chain, isn't it?
And I think this is what makes it so challenging and so complex because really it starts at the top of the company, say in the B2B, the company that's procuring the items, where they're willing to pay. We have in the building construction industry, it's very widely known that everything is price driven. Everything has to be as cheap as possible. And there's inherent problems around that. And certainly don't have a solution. But if everything is price driven, then that's going to filter down from one supplier to the other. And it will come at a cost to an individual who's not being paid or not being paid properly or not being paid all their entitlements, or the company may not be able to invest in workplace health and safety because they want to keep their overheads to a minimum. So at every step in the supply chain, will be affected by not wanting to procure product at a reasonable cost.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm fascinated by the work that you do, and I think that it is just so important. So, if you've got some tips for businesses out there who want to take the first step, what's the first step in making a positive contribution towards ending modern slavery and taking that meaningful action, do you think?
All around curiosity, really learning and educating yourself. It's how I got started. I saw what was coming in our industry in terms of modern slavery and human rights. So I traveled the world. I went to Vietnam and I did a SA 8000, which is an auditing course for labor exploitation in factories. And I went to Italy and did a course at the International Training Center. Now, you certainly don't need to travel the world to learn about human rights and modern slavery. There are thousands of resources, which can be overwhelming. But if somebody was watching this and they were interested, the Global Slavery Index is a really good place to start. But yes, education is key because one, if you don't know what modern slavery is, you don't know how to find it in your supply chain. But you also need to understand what products and materials and industries come with the highest risk. So you know how to focus your attention and what to look for in those products and materials, what kind of labor exploitation and modern slavery you're looking.
Curiosity is a great place to start because it is being curious is something that I do in my job every day. I am naturally a curious person. But if we can all be curious about where the things that we're buying come from, even as consumers, even if we are not the people who are working in the offices or working with the architects who source these materials that might come from a supply chain that has modern slavery in it somewhere, we all have the ability to have an impact. And I love the thought of getting curious as a place to start. That resonates with me as a writer. I think it's a key skill of a writer to, be open and be curious and ask questions. So that resonates with me very strongly. We came to know each other through a joint network that we are in together, and we connected. And you came along and did the brand story strategy workshop with me. And I'd love to talk a little bit about that and how you found that. So for those who are watching, the brand story strategy workshop helps small and medium purpose-driven business owners to really get a grasp on what their brand is and the story that they're trying to tell so that they can show up and do that in a consistent way and amplify their voice to the audience that matters to them. So what drew you to me? I think you're my ideal client from the point of view that you are very much a purpose-driven business owner, but I would love to know a little bit about what drew you to me.
Yeah, good question, Amy. Look, as you said, I was referred to you by somebody within the Her Business Network, but I'd also had other referrals from other business friends that I've got. And so I interviewed 3 different companies, yourself being one of them. And I can't remember at what stage I interviewed you, but I just remember thinking, oh my God, I love her. She just gets it. She's speaking the same language. Of course, I just wanted to work with you. And I had one of the other marketing companies approach me and say, could you please tell me why we didn't get it? And I thought, oh, it's such a challenging question and I love to be honest. So I really wanted to give her some feedback. And I think it's just that you feel a connection with somebody.
Yeah.
And I work on my own. I'm a solopreneur. And I think the people that I bring into my environment is really important. And then when we were speaking, it was really important for me to bring somebody in. I have a message and I really wanted to be able to get that out. And I haven't been so brave in doing that. And I really wanted to connect with someone. I'm getting quite emotional, but on a deeper level that could help me really, really understand my business, understand me, understand how important my message was, and that would be there to support me in doing that. And I just felt like we could create magic together when I met you. It was really
Oh,
fun.
and like I said, I've just felt so much passion for what it is that you do. And I absolutely love working with you on this because I think it is so important and the message is important. We talk about purpose-driven businesses, and this is one of the greater purposes that I've worked with someone on. So to be able to have a small impact on your business that helps you have an impact in the change that you're trying to create in the world is a reason for me to get up in the morning. It's what I love to do. Now, you've been in business for a long time, longer than me, and I'm really curious about your views on the things that have changed in the last 10 years. What are some of the things in being in small business that you've noticed have shifted in the time since you started?
Well, in terms of sustainability and business, I started really when sustainability was because I've been in business for over 15 years, but prior to that, I was still doing environmental work within an organization. So let's just say around about 20 years. Look, it was about 2006, and that's when in our industry, the building and construction industry, we had the Green Builder Council came along and we had rating tools. And that's the start of the green revolution in the building and construction industry. And I just felt at some point it plateaued. And after COVID, I don't know what it was that happened with the COVID, but what I suspect is happening is that there's a whole generation of young men and women that are coming out of university, Gen Z or the millennials that are coming out of university and being educated around sustainability. But I also feel that there's more of a heart issue around how can we do this better? We're the generation that's going to suffer the greatest impact through climate change and sustainability, lack of biodiversity. And so this young cohort are going to the head of these architectural firms and saying, what are we doing? Is it enough? We've got to do better.
Yeah.
And I love that. Like, I feel finally there's a generation that's really coming up and wanting to have impact and that are really brave and sassy and are really challenging the status quo. And so I feel like in terms of in my realm of what I know with small businesses and working with architects and designers, this is what I feel like is happening is a whole generation's coming up and leading the charge.
And I think it's going to be one of the most important issues of that generation.
Yeah.
They definitely are thinking about people like in a way that generations before them have not. And they're really immersed, this generation, in the global economy. So
Yeah.
like the kind of we're all one planet, we're all one world. And I think it's the first time that has really hit home. So even though the global economy and globalization has been around for a while, I studied it at university, I feel like this is the first generation where it's really the power of that could potentially be used for positive impact.
It gives me hope that things will be different, that things can be different because they're led by their hearts. I feel like it's their heart generations.
And I think that they are mobilized than ever before as well.
Yeah.
So they have access to tools that were not available to me when I was championing the cause that I was passionate about in high school. I didn't have social media to back me up. I didn't have that reach. And now there is that reach that is available to them to be connected on the things that are important to them. Thinking about the last 15 years of your business as well, something else I'm interested in getting your thoughts on is how marketing has changed. So, what do you think is going to be your challenge in marketing and brand moving forward into the next 10 years of your business? What do you think is going to be your biggest challenge that you're going to face in that space?
Yeah. The biggest challenge is cutting through, I think, in terms of, as I referenced, there's environmental sustainability in my industry gets a lot of attention, but the social sustainability, the S in ESG, is not always as highly regarded, or there's not as much work going on with the S. So I think cutting through in terms of reaching people's hearts and minds in understanding that if we want to change people's lives, people that are less fortunate than we are, people that want to go to work and work in a safe environment, people that want to get paid a living wage, that want to get paid all their entitlements, that we need to really start looking at making things different and better for them by the way we procure our products. And that goes for the industry as a whole, but also you were talking about us as individuals. And just as an example, I love a particular type of shoe. I won't mention their name, but I love their shoes, but they have a really poor record in terms of their human rights and modern slavery. So I keep writing to them and saying, I love your shoes, but I want to make sure that the workers in the supply chain being paid and are looked after. And I get no response, but I keep writing to them. Because if there's more people like me writing to them saying, we love your shoes, but you're not doing much in terms of environmental, social sustainability, then that may change. So yes, I think really speaking to people in a way that ignites passion within their heart. So they go, gosh, yes, there's a problem. We need to take meaningful action. I want to be part of this cohort of people that are doing something to make a positive impact on people's lives.
And I think you've touched on something there that I've seen change in marketing and brand over the last 10 years is that connection, is being connected. So being connected to people who care about the same things as us, being connected to issues that are important to us. We want brands to have that story that makes us feel part of something that's positive in our lives. And that real connection piece is something that has been growing more and more important over the last 10 years in marketing and will actually continue to be more important as we move into this age of AI that is resting over everything. Connection and authenticity are going to be things that become even more important, because while artificial intelligence tools are wonderful tools that will definitely revolutionize my industry, the marketing industry, we need to not lose the things that make us human. The things that only we can do. And so that connection, that authenticity, that being connected to things and to people that are important to us, to causes and to people that are important to us, is going to be a really massive trend that has definitely been growing. I think we're going to see it take massive leaps in the next couple of years for sure.
And I think this is where the brand strategy workshop was so valuable, because it really led me through this process. But one of the key parts of that was learning about your tribe. Who are the people that are going to feel connected to what you're saying? That was magic. And like, it may or may not be obvious to people, but it was just like, yes, there's a tribe of people that will care about this. There's a tribe of people that want to take meaningful action. There's a tribe of people that will really feel connected to what I'm saying.
And I think it's important as well to remember that we don't have to talk to everybody. I think it's the catch-22 of social media a little bit, in that we have the opportunity to connect with the right people, the people who are part of our tribe, in a way we've never had before. But we forget that we've got to narrow down and find them, because we've got all of these options. We can market to everybody, but that doesn't mean we should be. And so the more that we know about our ideal customer, the people who form part of our tribe, the people who share our values and who share the change we want to make in the world, and who can feel like they belong. I think one of the goals of building brand story should be to make people feel like they belong. And sometimes those things, that sense of belonging, can't actually be translated into words. Like, just going back to what you were saying before about something just felt magic about you. And that's all the unspoken stuff. That is all the story of what I value and how I approach my work that meant something to you. And it's the same for you with your ideal client and the people that you're trying to build a tribe with. I think that's just so important. We want to create a place where people feel that they can belong, that they are meant to be there, that there are people also in that tribe that feel the same things as they feel and have the same values that they have and want to create the same change that they want to create in the world. That feeling of belonging is incredibly powerful. And I think that's the magic.
Yeah.
Like that forms part of the
Yeah.
magic that
Yeah.
happens, especially when we feel like what we're doing is small or that we can't have the impact that we really want to be able to come together with others who share those things and feel like we're having an impact is such a powerful thing for the human spirit, I think.
Absolutely. For the human spirit.
Yeah, for the human spirit.
Yeah.
And on that note, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your human spirit with me in this interview. I've thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you, and I can't wait to continue to support you on your incredible mission of educating and inspiring people around the cause of modern slavery and labor exploitation so that we can watch that number go down instead of up.
And it's such a joy to work with you. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to do this interview with you today. And congratulations on your 10 years.
Thank you so much, Livy. And thank you to everyone for joining us today.